The salt spray kissed Finn's face, a harsh welcome to a life he never chose. At 12, with eyes too wide and clothes too thin, he clung to a coil of rope on the sea serpent, a brigantine notorious even in Tortuga's shadowed taverns. He was meant for a merchant vessel bound for Boston, a fresh start promised by the cold charity of the parish, but a drunken press gang, indifferent to his tearful pleas, had shoved him onto this pirate ship instead. Captain Blackheart Bartholomew Thorne was a silhouette against the setting sun, his reputation a tapestry woven with threads of ruthlessness and whispered melancholy. Finn had seen him only in glimpses, a figure of imposing height, a face etched with the harsh realities of the sea and eyes that held a distant sadness. The crew, a motley assortment of hardened men, largely ignored the small, frightened stowaway. Finn was an anomaly, a misplaced piece in their brutal existence. Days bled into weeks, marked by the creak of timbers, the sting of the lash for minor infractions, and the gnawing emptiness in Finn's stomach. He was put to menial tasks, scrubbing decks, mending sails, anything to keep him out of the way. The pirates were a rough lot, their laughter sharp and their camaraderie excluding. Yet Finn observed them, the strange camaraderie that bound them, the unspoken respect for their captain, even the flicker of shared humanity in their hardened eyes. One particularly violent squall battered the sea serpent. Waves crashed over the deck, and the wind howled like a banshee. Finn, struggling to secure a loose cannon, was thrown against the railing. A sharp crack echoed above the storm's fury, his leg twisted at an unnatural angle. Pain lanced through him, and he cried out, a small, lost sound swallowed by the tempest. Through the chaos, a large hand reached down. Captain Thorne, his coat soaked and his face grim, lifted Finn as if he weighed nothing. He carried the boy below deck, his movements surprisingly gentle despite the urgency of the situation. In the dimly lit captain's cabin, Thorne, with the help of a grizzled ship's surgeon whose remedies were more potent than precise, set Finn's leg. Confined to the cabin, Finn found himself in closer proximity to the enigmatic captain. Thorne rarely spoke, but his presence was a constant. He would bring Finn food himself, placing the plate on the small table beside the cot. Their interactions were wordless, punctuated only by the rhythmic creak of the ship and the occasional sigh from the captain. One evening, as the ship sailed under a calmer sky, Thorne sat across from Finn, a half-empty bottle of rum on the table between them. For a long moment, he simply looked at the boy, his gaze intense yet not unkind. The usual harshness in his features seemed to soften, replaced by a profound weariness. Finally, his voice, rough as weathered rope yet surprisingly soft, broke the silence. "You remind me of someone," he murmured, his eyes distant. "Someone I lost a long time ago." He didn't elaborate, and Finn didn't dare to ask. A few days later, as Finn was slowly regaining his mobility, Thorne entered the cabin with a small, intricately carved wooden bird. "I found this," he said, placing it in Finn's hand. "It belonged to him." Finn ran his fingers over the smooth wood, feeling the weight of the unspoken grief in the small object. He looked up at the captain, and for the first time, he saw not just the fearsome Blackheart Thorne, but a man burdened by sorrow, a man who, beneath the hardened exterior, yearned for something he had lost. That night, as the moon cast long shadows across the deck, Finn found Thorne alone at the helm, gazing out at the star-dusted sea. Hesitantly, Finn approached him. "Captain?" Thorne turned, his expression unreadable in the dim light. "Thank you," Finn said softly, clutching the wooden bird, "for everything." A faint smile touched Thorne's lips, a fleeting expression that vanished as quickly as it appeared. He looked back out at the sea, and after a long silence he whispered, his voice barely audible above the gentle lapping of waves against the hull. "Please, call me Bartholomew." The shift in their dynamic was subtle, yet profound. Bartholomew, while still the formidable captain commanding a ruthless crew treated Finn with a quiet protectiveness. The wooden bird became Finn's most treasured possession, a tangible link to the captain's hidden past and a symbol of their burgeoning unspoken bond. Finn began to learn the ways of the sea, not through harsh commands, but through patient instruction from Bartholomew himself. He taught Finn navigation, the language of the stars, and the intricate dance of the sails. Finn proved to be a quick learner, his youthful eagerness a stark contrast to the seasoned cynicism of the other pirates. The crew, initially wary of Finn's presence, began to accept him, albeit with a gruff affection. They saw the captain's unusual interest in the boy, and understanding the unspoken rules of pirate hierarchy, offered Finn a measure of respect. Finn, in turn, proved his worth, his small stature belying a surprising resilience and a willingness to work hard. Their piratical ventures continued, raids on merchant ships interspersed with periods of tense waiting in hidden coves. Finn witnessed the brutal realities of their life, the clash of steel, the desperate cries, the spoils of their plunder. He struggled to reconcile the violence with the unexpected kindness he had found in Bartholomew. One day, they intercepted a Spanish galleon laden with gold and jewels. The battle was fierce, the air thick with gunpowder smoke and the clang of swords. Finn, though not yet wielding a weapon, helped to ferry ammunition and tend to the wounded. In the heat of the fray, he saw Bartholomew fight with a ferocity that lived up to his fearsome reputation, a whirlwind of steel and fury. As the pirates celebrated their victory, a captured Spanish officer, his eyes burning with hatred, spat at Bartholomew. "You are a monster, a heartless brute." Bartholomew's face darkened, but he held his temper. He simply turned and walked away, the officer's venomous words hanging in the air. Later that night, Finn found Bartholomew alone in his cabin, staring out at the moonlit waves. He seemed troubled, the usual guardedness in his eyes replaced by a flicker of pain. "Captain," Finn began hesitantly, "what that man said, it isn't true." Bartholomew sighed, a deep, weary sound. "Isn't it, Finn? I've spilled blood, taken what isn't mine. I've made choices I can never unmake." "But you saved me," Finn countered. "You've been kind to me." Bartholomew turned, his gaze piercing. "You were a lost boy, Finn, alone and adrift like I once was." He then spoke of his past in fragmented whispers, revealing a childhood marked by hardship and loss, a desperate flight to the sea, and the harsh realities that had shaped him into the man he had become. He spoke of a son, lost to fever years ago, a grief he had buried deep beneath layers of cynicism and ruthlessness. Finn listened, his heart aching for the man who had become his protector. He understood then that Bartholomew's gruff exterior was a shield against the pain of his past, and that his unexpected kindness towards Finn was perhaps a flicker of the father he had lost the chance to be. Their bond deepened in the sharing of that painful truth. Finn no longer saw Bartholomew solely as the fearsome pirate captain, but as a complex man scarred by life, capable of both brutality and profound tenderness. He felt a fierce loyalty growing within him, a desire to ease the loneliness that clung to Bartholomew like the sea mist. One quiet evening, as they sailed under a canopy of stars, Finn sat beside Bartholomew on the deck. He didn't speak, but simply leaned against the captain's arm. Bartholomew, after a moment of stillness, placed a hand on Finn's shoulder, a silent gesture of acceptance and affection. In that simple touch, Finn felt a sense of belonging he had never known, a feeling of finally being home. The vast, unforgiving sea, once a symbol of his lostness, now felt like a shared space, a place where an unlikely bond had been forged amidst the harsh realities of pirate life. Life on the Sea Serpent settled into a rhythm, a strange blend of piratical raids and quiet moments of connection between the captain and the boy. Finn continued to learn from Bartholomew, his skills with navigation and seamanship growing steadily. He was no longer just the orphan boy. He was Finn, a valued member of the crew, and, in Bartholomew's eyes, something akin to the son he had lost. Their raids often took them to the vibrant ports and hidden coves of the Caribbean. Finn, though witnessing the darker side of humanity, also experienced the camaraderie of the pirate brotherhood and the intoxicating allure of freedom that their lawless life offered. Yet his heart remained tethered to Bartholomew, his greatest fear, the thought of losing the man who had given him a second chance. One fateful day, they encountered a heavily armed Royal Navy frigate. A fierce battle ensued, the cannons roaring, the decks slick with blood. The sea serpent, though agile, was outgunned. Finn, now adept at loading and firing muskets, fought alongside the crew, his youthful fear replaced by a grim determination. In the thick of the fighting, Finn saw Bartholomew engaged in a desperate sword fight with a naval officer. The officer, younger and agile, pressed the attack relentlessly. Suddenly the officer lunged, his sword aimed at Bartholomew's chest. Reacting instantly, Finn fired his musket. The shot went wide, but it startled the officer, giving Bartholomew a crucial opening. With a swift parry and thrust, Bartholomew disarmed his opponent. The battle eventually turned in favor of the Royal Navy. The Sea Serpent, battered and taking on water, was forced to surrender. The surviving pirates, including Bartholomew and Finn, were taken prisoner. Confined to the dark, damp hold of the frigate, Finn's heart ached with fear for Bartholomew. The captain, though wounded, remained stoic, his concern solely for Finn's safety. They were taken to Port Royal to face trial for their crimes. The atmosphere was thick with animosity, the townsfolk eager to see the notorious pirates brought to justice. Bartholomew knew their chances were slim. During their imprisonment, Finn was interrogated separately. The governor, a stern-faced man with shrewd eyes, offered Finn a deal: testify against Bartholomew, and he would be spared, given passage back to England. Torn between his fear of the gallows and his unwavering loyalty to Bartholomew, Finn wrestled with the impossible choice. He thought of the captain's gruff kindness, the wooden bird, the whispered words, "Please call me Bartholomew." When the day of the trial arrived, Finn stood before the court, his heart pounding in his chest. He looked at Bartholomew, who stood tall and defiant amidst his captured crew, his gaze meeting Finn's with a mixture of concern and understanding. Taking a deep breath, Finn spoke, not to condemn, but to recount the events as he had witnessed them, highlighting not only the brutality of their actions, but also the unexpected moments of humanity he had observed, particularly Bartholomew's unspoken protectiveness towards a lost orphan boy. His testimony surprised everyone. It didn't absolve Bartholomew of his crimes, but it painted a more nuanced picture of the feared pirate captain. In the end, Bartholomew was sentenced to hang. Finn, due to his age and his somewhat mitigating testimony, was offered a chance at redemption, a life away from piracy. Standing on the docks, watching as Bartholomew was led away, Finn's eyes welled with tears. He knew he could not abandon the man who had become his father figure. As Bartholomew stood on the scaffold, he looked out at the crowd, his gaze finding Finn. A faint smile touched his lips, a final silent acknowledgement of their bond. Finn, defying the authorities, pushed through the crowd, shouting, "Bartholomew! I'm here!" Bartholomew's eyes held Finn's for a long moment, a profound understanding passing between them. Then, with a nod, he faced his fate with a quiet dignity. In the aftermath, Finn, though heartbroken, carried the memory of Bartholomew in his heart. He chose a different path, using the knowledge he had gained at sea to become a respected shipwright. He never forgot the lonely pirate captain who had whispered, "Please be my son," and the unlikely love that had blossomed amidst the dangers and uncertainties of the Golden Age of Piracy. The wooden bird remained his constant reminder of a bond forged in the crucible of a brutal world, a testament to the enduring power of human connection found in the most unexpected of places. Thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed this tale of pirates, found family, and the romanticized adventures of the Caribbean, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting historical narratives.